the AI6 podcast with Joanne Sweeney.
Mariana, you're very welcome to the AI6 podcast. But first of all, for the purposes of our listeners and our viewers, please do a lovely introduction of yourself.
So my name is Maria Axente. Until very recently, I was employed by a large professional services company where I spent 11 years, out of which more than 8 I've been focusing on responsible AI. So very recently, I left the company with the view of exploring business opportunities around providing the same type of AI advisory services to different audiences, but this time doing myself and work with lovely people and very interesting projects, more interesting than I used to work before. So here I am. So I'm in a very interesting period of my life, a transition from a corporate life to an aspiring founder. So yes, I'm living in a world where there is a necessary structure. I'm having a lot of very interesting conversation. I'm meeting a lot of interesting people, and I'm exploring how the world really is in the age of emerging technology and especially AI.
Well, I'm speaking to you from Dublin in Ireland, and we've just finished a 2-day conference here for the radio sector. And I was on the last panel around AI and radio. And a lot of the questions coming from the floor were around responsible AI. And as you will appreciate, within radio stations, you've got an editorial department, you've got production department, you've got a creative, but everybody is very nervous. What is your advice to your clients when you're talking about responsible AI and where they're starting from?
I think it's understandable to be nervous because there's been the certain narrative in the media that have been favoriting sensationalism when it comes to AI. Either a very positive narrative, which we've seen in 2016, 2018, with AI that's going to save the world, then suddenly the pendulum swing in the other side, saying AI is going to wipe humanity, comes with those existential threat, we should put a hold, which you've seen, in the last 2022, 2023. And then when you see this repeatedly in the news as a member of the public, you are generally concerned. That comes on top of all the conversation about climate change and war and economic collapse, and then the fate of democracy. So I think at the back of your mind, and then you see your children being so engulfed in the digital world, and it makes you think, what's going on? How do I make sense of it all? And you bring yourself as a reader of those news, as a concerned parent, into your workplace. And with this in mind, you are expected to make decision or to contemplate using technology like AI into day-to-day world. And of course, you're going to be impacted by that outlook, sensationalist, apocalyptic outlook that you pick up from the news. Also because it's hard to kind of really understand the technology to start with. What is it and what is it not? And then how to do it in a way that makes sense for you. It's like, it's not going to break things. And also it's not going to, make people lose their livelihood. But also in the same time, tap on the benefit, be able to exploit those tools because that's what they are, tools. The way it's being portrayed in the wider narrative that AI starts to become something that larger than life, which is not necessarily where we want to be. So I will advise everyone to actually take a bit of a step back and understand exactly what we're talking about. And the reason I say this is that in interaction with the chatbots, some people started attributing AI some paranormal, esoterical attributes, like it can read into my soul. And when I replied to that statement, but those are word prediction machine on steroids. People say you don't know what you're talking about. Like, okay, maybe I don't, but this is what it is. It's literally a word prediction machine on steroids. You might not want to hear it because you're actually enchanted by the fact it's talking back to you, but it's not. You just press a button and it generates some words based on the training data it's been fed to. So I think taking a bit of a step back and trying to reflect, I think is going to be very useful, and find a way not to be caught up in this hype, craze, emotional driven narrative that's, it's coming. We know it's intentionally driven from somewhere because the hype sells, no matter how you put it. It's a lot of attention, there's a lot of money, investment, budget. Of course, you want to keep a hype, but for general public, we just need that detachment. And out of this detachment, start talking to people like ourselves, like advisors, who are able to guide you a little bit in that journey. It's like, what are you trying to achieve? Is it really AI the solution to your problem? And what sort of a solution we're coming from? And what are the ripple effects to your people, to yourself, and for the wider business and the sector you operate in?
So in terms of then creating use cases, because that's a really good starting point, what are some AI use cases that you've come across in your work that have added value to the organization?
How do we define value? Because in fact, this is actually a thorny point. Without going too philosophical and too abstract, it's hard for us to measure the value AI brings. I mean, obviously, a lot of the work and a lot of the solution range from all sorts of virtual assistants in financial services, in call centers, all sorts of document summarization or document retrieval. How do you then measure efficiency? And I think measuring efficiencies has been a bit of a strongly debated field forever. If you look again through the era of the emergence of computer and email, when people are still sending written letter or faxes, and then emergence of the smartphone, who took so much of the communication, is like, how do you quantify the impact of email other than, the reduction in cost of printed or the toner and faxes or the cost of the paper? I think that's what we need to start with, is how do we measure value and what are the key indicators we pursue? And I think this is where we have not found a meaningful measure of the return on investment. But in terms of use cases, it's probably the ones that everyone has seen, is using large language models to help us with some sort of cognitive tasks, either being able to respond to customer queries in a way that is more tailored and faster for them to solve their problems, or is about document creation, summarization, all sorts of a processing of content in any shape or form. I've seen so many cases in consulting or in professional services, and similar to creative services, those two industries are very much impacted by generative AI, because what they do is like some sort of a processing knowledge. They are in a knowledge business, and as a result, what this tool does is a way of accelerating knowledge management. And I wouldn't be able to pinpoint one case or another, because I would say, yes, it allows me to accelerate my research, but then it doesn't mean that I will do a better job in terms of cutting the time I produce a report, because that research might just throw different avenue for different ideas that I need to research further. So I think the big question is, how do we measure value? And is it really a time-saving or efficiency-creating machine? And what are the KPIs we're measuring? And I know that that's been a disagreement between those who measure the impact of AI, because we have professional services is saying AI is going to deliver up to 25% increase in efficiency, while some economists is saying so far we have seen single digit, if even no lower than a single digit impact on productivity.
I listened in the last couple of weeks with great interest to the UK's AI action plan. And the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, said anyone working in the civil service that is undertaking a task that is menial or repetitive, their time should not be spent on that. AI should do it. So there seems to be very explicit proactive approach in the UK to making public services more efficient, but also with Humphrey AI and developing their own AI technology, that the UK are going all in. What's been your experience over there?
Yes, UK is going all in. Unfortunately, the UK government is doing is sprinkle a little bit of AI everywhere and expect it to work. It's not. And also, it's kind of bedazzling that the current government, who is historically known as a pro-people party, is pushing so much for implementation of technology, that will result in literally tens of thousands of people being laid off. There's no other way of putting it. So I know there's a lot of interest on what Elon Musk is doing with Doge in the US, and what people are missing is that in the background he is promoting the use of technology to replace whatever waste is being cut. And when I say waste, I say humans, because let's be honest with each other, the waste is coming from us being unpredictable, unorganized, lazy. But this is who we are, and is absolutely fine. But guess what? The wider economy looks at us and it's like, oh, you are the main source for inefficiency. What if we replace you with a machine that it's not lazy, it's not hungry, doesn't get sick? But then what will we do with all the people who will be left behind? So I think what the government is doing is has a lot of pressure on reinventing the public sector. And it's not just this government. I mean, every single government since I've arrived in this country, the narrative was the same. We see the public sector as being a black hole for public money. And what's the best way to transforming it? And in no way I'm representing any political opinion, but what happens in the US is going to be an interesting use case to analyze for other governments on how to cut inefficiency, how to look after your own people, and in this process implement technology so that you don't literally find yourself with millions of people unemployed. So what the government is doing on paper sounds like the right thing to do, but the reality is quite different, because implementing AI is not the task for the fainted. And it's not just that the AI Opportunity Forum is looking only at implementation of AI in public sector. This is, of course, a main driver. Also is looking to stimulate the development and adoption of AI across the economy, which is about generating economic value. And I think this is, to me, the most important theme in the AI world. Is like, yes, we understand this is important technology. Yes, we understand there are some risks attached to it, but can we align it with some very well-defined economic, social, environmental goals, and then being able to measure how AI is delivering against those goals, rather than us focusing solely on the KPIs attached with a system or another. And then, yes, AI, UK is very boldly trying to create AI zones where to bring together not just infrastructure that will allow entrepreneurs to come and develop proposition, but also is working, and has been working actually consistently for the last 8 years to build capacity, data capacity, skills capacity, to allow AI to really thrive in the economy, not just at the level of one part of economy or another.
So stepping out of consulting and going it alone. And I love having conversations with other advisors, trainers, consultants who want to do AI for good. So what value are you bringing, and what knowledge are you bringing to organizations? Like, what's your mantra and your offering to them?
Because AI has to be done responsibly. This is not negotiation. And I fought alongside many of the colleagues in this community, responsible AI, ethical AI, safe AI, or trustworthy AI. We fought so hard for responsibility and good, proper AI to become the norm rather than the exception. And we still have a long way ahead of us, because someone I spoke with today, it says like, yes, everyone is taken aback by ethics. Yes, we all want to do the right thing until, the stomach is churning and then everything goes down the drain. When you are in a fight or flight situation, you kind of start sacrificing the value. So the value add is, how do you deploy AI in a way that incorporates those elements, the impact it has, the implication. And it's not to retrain or hamper innovation. It's more of a giving a boost, being able to say, I will grow in a way that is sustainable. I will build trusted relationship with my customer. I will ensure that I am compliant with whatever regulation or norms of rules exist in the country, which is a different way of growing, which is more sustainable, with more roots, if you want. I think it's quite unique, because I understand pretty well that world of responsibility, and how I also understand how that could be seen as being the opposite of an enabler. And my task would be to be able to articulate that this is another engine that contributes to a further degree of growth that otherwise wouldn't be possible. Why? It's very simple, because the society and the wider public is asking for fairer products and services, more ethically sourced. And we've seen this, for a while. It wasn't just with the emerging of technology that we've seen people favoriting ethically sourced coffee or chocolate or cotton. So there's clear revolution that happens at consumer level and a demand for a different type of approach when we produce products and services. And then ultimately, I hope that customers will apply enough pressure to any companies to be able to up their game and incorporate those issues very early on in the design of both their companies, but also their products and services.
And I guess that's where the good guiding principles of AI come in. And of course, they are transparency, explainability. Yeah, so you can explain how you've designed and how deploying your AI, human oversight, and then ethics. So, those principles are fantastic, and all companies and governments would say that they live and breathe those. But, even a report coming out of Ireland last week between Trinity College Dublin and Microsoft said that AI technology and the AI economy is worth 250 billion to our Irish economy in the next 10 years. And what makes me think is, I hope that money and the economic benefits do not override the human benefits or take away from the human risks. I mean, do you have faith in big business? Because a lot of big businesses are driving this, right? Or big tech companies they almost have a monopoly on AI. And is it the people with the most money will ultimately get to decide if they're going to do it responsibly? Or can the media and the public put enough pressure on to protect the human race, I guess?
This is such a good question to ask, because, when you read the news, you read the latest New York Times article when one of the most established tech writers talks about the imminence of AGI, and the fact that AGI currently, for those who listen to us, AGI means artificial general intelligence. And it's considered to be the most sophisticated form of artificial intelligence that is capable to solve a variety of tasks similar to what we do as humans. And obviously, there's a lot of very different definitions floating around. But when you hear that's coming from the big tech bros as they're being labeled, you kind of have a sense of inevitable, and the fact that this is done to us and there's nothing we can do. They couldn't be more intentional than this. We are led to believe this way so that agency is being taken away from us. But what we know is that there is still a possibility to fight back. And the way to fight back is to say, we acknowledge there is this concentration of power that goes all the way at the top of the government. Being Irish, being UK, being American, those companies have now accounted for so much power, it feels like it's impossible to push back. But there's still a lot of agency and a lot of control, also because AI allows us to start being a bit more in control of what we design in terms of tools and how fast we design those tools. And if I'm to looking where some of optimism is coming is the open source movement. And suddenly you see DeepSeek or other tools coming from different parts of the world, performing more or less at the same level with models that have been extremely expensive to train. And it makes you think there is something in the open source that takes away from the power that currently exists and resides in the hands of the many. I might be wrong, but I want to remain optimistic and say to everyone, we still can push back. We still have a lot of levers. We still have democratically elected institutions and regulators who are fighting the good fight. But what we need to be doing is be able to upskill ourselves to understand how AI works and being able to contribute as best as we can, writing to your MP or contributing to regulatory proposals. And every single state, at least in our part of the world, when they have drafted the bill, they went through a lengthy process of consultation. And all those are intervention that all of us have at our disposal to be able to push back. Would that be efficient? Would it mean a weakening of the power, concentration power? I wouldn't want to answer because it's more of an open question, but I would like to encourage everyone to say, don't buy into that narrative. This is inevitable. It's not. You still have a lot of leverage. Educate yourself. Don't be afraid of AI. don't buy everything you heard. Even people who have been doing this for decades, they don't have the full picture. AI is becoming such a complex phenomenon, but that phenomenon is shaped not just by big tech or the deep domain experts or the PhDs, but by all of us. Because guess what? We are the one being the users of the products. How we do this, hopefully there will be more of a social movement that will allow us to participate more meaningfully. I would say don't give up, because the fight is nowhere near to be lost.
Yeah, we really need to be active citizens through this AI industrial revolution as opposed to passive. And I think that's a really important message, that we all have agency and we matter. And I haven't heard somebody put it like that before. So that's a really strong message. But thank you so much for joining me and having this conversation. I found you on LinkedIn. Where would you like to direct listeners or viewers to this conversation to find out more about you and your work?
Same on LinkedIn. For the time being is my main channel. And then encourage you to drop me a DM. Very active. I'm very much engaged into listening what people have to say about AI. What are the problems they're trying to solve? And obviously, how can I play a part either with my business or with my advocacy work into paying back? Because I think it's important to support each other. It's like when you have knowledge and expertise in one part, it's important for us to be able to give this away to help others open up their mind and eyes, and then being able to become contributors, active parts, as you said, like act on that agency we have and not just be silent receivers of this technology. I think that we would be in a very weak position if more people will continue to buy in this narrative that's coming from the tech industries, and they will all remain either dormant or silent in this world, just receiving whatever's being given.
Oh, Maria, I really enjoyed this conversation. I will get you to Ireland, to a boardroom or to a stage or to both, because I think people really need to hear your knowledge and learn from your experience. Let's keep in touch on LinkedIn. And thank you so much for joining me on the AI6 podcast.
Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure.
The AI6 podcast with Joanne Sweeney.